Good evening. I'm Charles Dickens, and on this night, December 13th, I present to you one of my most famous tales, A Christmas Carol, read to you by a group of performers with live music by Rob Bentley, live sound by Krista Wells, and costuming by Rena Kosatz. Let's begin, shall we? Marley was dead, to begin with. There's no doubt whatsoever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, the chief mourner, and Scrooge himself. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Mind, I don't mean to know that I know of my own knowledge what is particularly dead about a doornail. I might have thought a cofferdale as the deadest piece of ironmongery in the trade, but the wisdom of our ancestors is in the similes, and my unhallowed hand shall not disturb it. You will therefore permit me to repeat emphatically that Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead. Of course he did. How could he be otherwise? Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole residual legatee, his sole friend, and sole mourner. There is no doubt that Marley was dead, and this must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful can come of the tale I'm about to tell. But Scrooge was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone. Squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, stiffened his gait, made his eyes red, his thin lips blue, and spoke out shrewdly in his grating voice. He carried his own low temperature always about with him. He iced his office in the dog days of summer, and didn't thaw it 1 degree at Christmas. External heat and cold had little influence on Scrooge. Nobody ever stopped him in the street to say, with gladsome looks, "My dear Scrooge, how are you? When will you come to see me?" No beggars implored him to bestow a trifle. No children asked him what it was o'clock. No man or woman ever once in all his life inquired the way to such and such a place of Scrooge.
The herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled.
Once upon a time, of all the good days of the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. The door of the counting house was open that he might keep his eye on his clerk, who in a dismal little cell beyond worked at his ledgers. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's was so very much smaller that it had only 1 coal. But he couldn't replenish it, for Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room.
God Rest ye merry, gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day, to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 26, born on Christmas Day.
Bob Cratchit!
Yes, sir, Mr.
Wait,
Scrooge.
stop that infernal caterwauling.
Yes, sir. 9, 15, 17.
Singing their idiotic Christmas carols at my very door. Oh, well, go on, get away from my door. Go somewhere else and bellow your blasted carols, or I'll give you. Oh, God.
Why, Governor? It's an old custom at Christmas time, you know.
Yes, and I don't want any of your old customs. Take your fellow fools and go away.
Right, sir.
Christmas! What?
Merry Christmas anyway, sir.
What?
Good Wenceslas carol on the feast of Stephen.
Now, you get that letter from Higgins and Blackthorn, Cratchit, and then I want you to finish posting this ledger, and after that you can pop over to the Edgewoods and tell Charles Edgewood you've come after the 17 shillings and sixpence that he's owed since March. And tell him that I shall have a constable over there if he doesn't pay up at once.
Mr. Edgewood's wife has been ill, sir.
Well, what do I care about his wife? I want 17 and 6.
I just thought it being Christmas, sir.
Christmas. You mention that word to me once more, Bob Cratchit, and I'll...
Merry Christmas, Uncle. Merry Christmas, Bob.
Merry Christmas to you, Fred.
a humbug.
Christmas a humbug? Oh, you don't mean that, I'm sure.
I do. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
Well, come then. What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough.
Humbug.
Oh, don't be cross, Uncle.
What else can I be when I live in such a world as fools as this? Merry Christmas. Out upon Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money, a time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer? If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart, he should.
Uncle!
Nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it? But you don't keep it.
Well then, let me leave it alone then. Much good may it do to you. Much good it's ever done you.
Well, there are many things by which I might have derived good, by which I might not have profited. I dare say Christmas among the rest. But I am sure I've always thought of Christmas time as a good time. A kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. The only time I know of in the long calendar of the year when men and women seem to, by one consent, open their shut-up hearts freely, and to think of people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe that it has done me good and will do me good, and I say, God bless it!
Hurrah! Let me hear another sound from you, and you'll keep your Christmas by losing your situation. You're quite a powerful speaker, sir. I wonder why you don't go into Parliament.
Oh, well, don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow.
Humbug.
Why?
Why did you get married?
Because I fell in love.
Because you fell in love. As if that were the only thing in the world more ridiculous than a Merry Christmas. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead these 7 years. He died 7 years ago this very night.
We have no doubt his liberality is well represented by his surviving partner. At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute who suffer greatly at the present time. Many thousands are in want of common necessaries. Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comfort, sir.
Are there no prisons?
Plenty of prisons.
And the union workhouses, are they still in operation?
Oh, they are. Still, I wish I could say they were not.
I was afraid from what you said that something had occurred to stop them in their useful course. Well, I'm very glad to hear it.
A few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices. So what shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
Oh, you wish to be anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. Since you asked me what I wish, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost me enough, and those who are badly off must go there.
Many cannot go there, and many would rather die.
If they would rather die, then they'd better do it and decrease the surplus population. Good afternoon. You'll want all day tomorrow, I suppose.
If quite convenient, sir.
It's not convenient, and it's not fair. If I was to stop half a crown for it, you'd think yourself ill-used, I'd be bound. And yet you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work.
Christmas comes only once a year, sir.
Poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. But I suppose you must have the whole day, but be here all the earlier the next morning.
Oh, I will, sir. I will indeed. Good night, sir, and Merry Christmas.
Later that night, Scrooge took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern, and having read all the newspapers and spent the rest of the evening reading his banker's book, went home to his bed, to his dark and gloomy chambers. Darkness is cheap, and Scrooge liked it. The yard was so dark that even Scrooge, who knew its every stone, had to grope with his hands through the fog and frost to find the door. Let it be known that Scrooge had not bestowed one thought on Marley since his last mention of his 7 years dead partner that afternoon. And then let any man explain to me, if he can, how it happened that Scrooge, having his hand on the door, saw in the knocker not a knocker, but Marley's face. Marley's face. It was not angry or ferocious, but looked at Scrooge as Marley used to look, with ghostly spectacles turned up upon its ghostly forehead. As Scrooge looked fixedly at this phenomenon, it was suddenly a knocker again. Scrooge walked through his rooms to see that all was right. He had just enough recollection of the day and of the face to desire to do that. Sitting room, bedroom, lumber room, all as they should be. Nobody under the bed, nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa. A small fire in the grate, spoon and basin ready. Nobody under the bed, nobody in the closet, nobody in his dressing gown, which was hanging in a suspicious attitude against the wall. Quite satisfied, he closed his door and locked himself in. Double locked himself in, which was not his custom. Thus secured against surprise, he took off his cravat, put on his dressing gown and slippers and his nightcap, and sat down before the fire to take his gruel.
humbug still. Don't believe it. How now? What do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Well, who were you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Can you sit down?
Oh, I can.
Well, do it then.
You don't believe me.
I don't.
What evidence would you have of my reality beyond your senses?
I don't know.
Huh. Why do you doubt your senses?
Because a little thing affects them. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato.
No.
There's more
No.
of gravy than of grave in you, whoever you are. Oh, mercy. Mercy, dreadful apparition. Why do you trouble me?
Do you not believe in me?
Why, I do. I must. But why do spirits walk the earth, and why do they come to me?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad amongst his fellow men, and travel far and wide, and if that spirit goes not forth, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander through the world. Oh, woe is me, and witness what it cannot share, but might have shared on earth, and turn to happiness.
You carry chains. Tell me why.
I wear the chain that I forged in my life. I made it link by link, and yard by yard I girded it of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you? Or would you know the weight and the length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was as heavy and as long as this 7 Christmas Eves ago, and you have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain.
Scrooge glanced about him on the floor in the expectation of finding himself surrounded by 50 or 60 fathoms of iron cable, but he could see nothing.
Jacob, oh Jacob Marley, tell me more. Speak comfort to me, Jacob.
I have none to give you. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never walked beyond our counting house. Now, mark me, in my life, my spirit never roved beyond the narrow limits of our money-changing hole. And weary journeys lie before me. Captive, bound and double-ironed.
But you were always a good man of business.
Business? Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. Hear me, my time is nearly gone.
I will, but don't be hard upon me.
I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and a hope of escaping my fate. A chance and hope of my procuring Ebenezer.
You were always a good friend to me, thank ye.
You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
Is that the chance and hope you mentioned, Jacob?
It is.
Well, I think I'd rather not.
Without their visit, you cannot hope to shun the path that I tread. Expect the first tomorrow night. when the bell tolls 1.
Well, couldn't I take them all at once and have it over, Jacob?
I expect the 2nd on the next night at the same hour, and the 3rd upon the next night when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more. And for your own sake, you remember what has passed between us.
Marley.
Marley walked backward from him, and at every step he took, the window raised itself a little, so that when the apparition reached it, it was wide open. Scrooge closed the window and examined the door by which the ghost had entered. It was double locked as he had locked it with his own hands, and the bolts were undisturbed. Scrooge tried to say,
Humbug.
but stopped at the first syllable. And being from the emotion he had undergone, or the fatigues of the day, or his glimpse of the invisible world, or the dull conversation of the ghost, or the lateness of the hour, much in need of repose, he went straight to bed without undressing, and fell asleep on the instant. Scrooge awoke with a start.
1/4 past. 1/2 past. 1/4 to it. The hour itself, and nothing else.
The curtains of his bed were drawn aside by a hand, and Scrooge came face to face with a most unearthly visitor.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past. The things that you will see with me are the shadows of the things that have been. They will have no consciousness of us.
What brought you here?
Your welfare. Rise and walk with me.
Oh, no. Well, not out the window. Oh, well, I can't do that. I'm not a spirit. I'm mortal and I'll fall.
Touch my hand and you will not fall. Come, follow me.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood upon an open country road with fields on either side. The city had entirely vanished. Not a vestige of it was to be seen. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it, for it was a clear, cold winter day with snow upon the ground.
Where are we? What's become of the city?
These are the shadows of the things that have been. You recognize this countryside?
I know every inch, rock, and tree.
And that bleak building there?
That's where I attended school.
Come, let's walk along. The school is not quite deserted. Look into that cold, barren room. What do you see?
A solitary child.
Neglected by his friends. Alone at Christmas.
I was so lonely.
Ebenezer, dear brother, I've come to bring you home, dear brother. To bring you home, home.
Home, little friend.
Yes, home, for good and all. Home forever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be, that home's like heaven. He spoke so gently to me one dear night when I was going to bed that I was not afraid to ask him once more if you might come home. And he said, yes, you should. And sent me in a coach to bring you. And you're to be a man. And are never to come back here. But first, we're to be together for all the Christmas long and have the merriest time in all the world.
Always a delicate creature, whose breath might have withered, but she had a large heart.
So she had.
She died young, but had children?
One child?
Your nephew.
Yes.
Come, let's see another Christmas.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood in the busy thoroughfares of a city. It was made plain enough by the dressing of the shops that here, too, it was Christmas time.
Do you know this place?
Know it. I apprenticed here.
No more work tonight! Christmas Eve! Let's have the dust pushed back
before a man can say Satanic. What? It's old Fezziwig, my former employer, bless his heart. It's Fezziwig alive again, hosting one of his Christmas parties. Oh, and there's Dick Wilkins. Oh, poor Dick. Oh, dear, yes. And look, and there's Mrs. Fezziwig herself, looking younger than any of them. And the tables, they're all loaded with roasts and cider and mince pie and beer. And me, I look so happy. What a jolly time we used to have here.
Tonight there will be no work, just merriment! A toast to my diligent and hard-working staff!
Let the dancing begin. Let's start with a jig, shall we?
Take your partners!
Listen to him.
Corkscrew, thread the needle, and back to your places.
A small matter to make these silly folks so full of joy.
Well, the happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune.
What's the matter?
Nothing particular.
Something, I think.
No, I should like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk just now, that's all.
My time grows short. Quick, there's one thing left to see.
Where now?
Come. This is our last visit to the past, Ebenezer. Here in this little room with a fair young girl by your side. Do you recognize yourself, Ebenezer?
Oh no. No. Please spare me this.
You're older now, a man in the prime of life. Your face has begun to wear the signs of care and avarice. Your eyes are greedy, eager, restless eyes of a miser.
No, please. No.
She knows it, too. That girl by your side, there are tears in her eyes.
It matters very little to you. Very little. I know that.
Belle, have I changed toward you?
When we were engaged, we were poor.
Was it better then? Better to be poor?
Better at least to be happy. You've changed. You were another man then.
I was a boy. You blame me because I've grown wiser? Have I ever tried to break our engagement?
In words? No, never.
In what then?
In an altered spirit. In a changed nature. In everything that made my love of any value to you. So I release you from your promise.
Belle.
Oh, at first it may cause you pain. A very brief pain. But soon it will be dim like a half-remembered dream. An unprofitable dream. And you will be glad to be awake from such a dream. May you be happy in the life you've chosen, Ebenezer.
That's enough. Show me no more. Take me home.
These are the shadows of the things that have been, that they are what they are. Do not blame me.
No more. No more.
One shadow more. Come. Do you see this man, Ebenezer Scrooge? This man might have been you, and this woman beside him, your wife. And that girl might have been your daughter, Ebenezer Scrooge. She might have called you father. She might have been a springtime in the haggard winter of your life.
Spirit, let me go. Show me no more.
Listen now, will they speak, Ebenezer?
Belle, I saw an old friend of yours today.
Who was it?
Guess.
How can I? Oh, Mr. Scrooge.
Mr. Scrooge it was. I passed his office. It wasn't shuttered, and there was a candle inside, so I couldn't help but seeing him. His partner Marley lies at the point of death. I hear, and there Scrooge sat, all alone. Quite alone in the world, I do believe.
Spirit, I can't bear any more. Haunt me no more. Take me back. Take me back.
You were listening to A Christmas Carol by me, Charles Dickens. This performance was brought to you by Ship's Company Theater and our sponsor, O'Regan's Auto. We'll now take a short break. I hear there's hot chocolate at the bar. Awaking in the middle of a prodigiously tough snore, Scrooge sat bolt upright in bed to get his thoughts together. He remembered the words of Marley's ghost and wondered from which direction the specter would appear. Now, being prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for nothing. And consequently, when no shape appeared, he was taken with a violent fit of trembling. Then, as he sat in his bed, he became aware gradually of a great blaze of ruddy light, which seemed to shine upon him from the adjoining room. He got up softly and shuffled his slippers to the door. It was his own sitting room, no doubt about that, but it had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and ceiling were so hung with living green that it looked like a perfect grove, from every part of which bright gleaming berries glistened, and such a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney as had never been known in Scrooge's time, or for many and many a winter season gone. Heaped up on the floor to form a kind of throne were turkeys, geese, game, poultry, great joints of meat, suckling pigs, long wreaths of sausages, mince pies, plum puddings, barrels of oysters, red-hot chestnuts, and seething bowls of punch that made the chamber dim with their delicious steam. In an easy state upon this couch, there sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, who bore a glowing torch in a shape not unlike Plenty's horn, and held it up, high up, to shed its light on Scrooge as he came peeping round the door.
Come in and know me better, man. Ho, ho. I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me. You have never seen the like of me before.
Never.
Have you never walked forth with the younger members of my family? Meaning, for I am very young, my elder brothers and sisters, born in these later years.
I don't think I have. Have you had many brothers and sisters, Spirit?
1,800.
A tremendous family to provide for, Spirit. Spirit, conduct me where you will. I went forth last night on compulsion, and I learnt a lesson which is working now. Now tonight, if you have aught to teach me, let me profit by it.
Touch my robe.
Scrooge did so, and they were transported to a narrow street.
Where have you brought me, Spirit?
An humble dwelling and an humble street.
It's humble enough.
Yet, there is happiness here.
But who are these people? Who is that woman? And those children, who are they?
These are the family of your clerk, Bob Cratchit. His wife, dressed in a twice-turned gown, but brave in ribbons, laying the table for their Christmas dinner. And there, assisting her, her daughters, Belinda and Elizabeth. And the young man with the fork and the stuffing, that's Master Peter Cratchit. Listen, Scrooge.
Okay, everyone. What has delayed your precious father, then, and your brother, Tiny Tim? Martha is dreadfully late.
I'm sure she will soon be along, Mother. I see her coming down the path. Here's Martha, Mother. Martha, you're home.
Oh, why, bless your heart alive, Martha. My dear, Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, Mother.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
How late you are, my dear.
Oh, we had a deal of work to finish up last night, and we had to clear away this morning.
Oh, well, never mind. So long as you're here now, sit ye down before the fire and have a warm Lord bless ye.
Where's Father?
He's been to church with Tiny Tim. They'll be along directly.
How is Tiny Tim, Mother? Any better at all?
Sometimes I think he is, and sometimes I think, dear God, if anything should ever happen to my Tiny Tim.
Mother, you mustn't even think of such a thing.
Here they are.
There's Tiny Tim.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Martha, welcome, my dear.
Merry Christmas, Father, and Tim.
Merry Christmas, Martha.
Oh, Tim, you darling. Oh, Father, I'm so glad to be home.
And we're so glad to have you, Martha.
And how did little Tim behave in church, Bob?
Oh, as good as gold and better.
Bless you, my son.
Are we ready to eat, Mother? Come on, let's eat.
Yes, let's eat. The smell of duck is making me so famished.
Oh, yes, children, we're all ready. Come, take your places now. Bob, wait your turn. There's plenty. Stuffing, dressing, and plum pudding for all of you. Martha, you take care of Tiny Tim.
Yes, Mother.
You see that he eats plenty. He must get tall and well. Now, sit down, everyone.
And now, my dears, with such a dinner, a toast. A Merry Christmas to all.
Amen.
God bless us, everyone.
And now, to Mr. Scrooge.
Aww.
I give you a toast to Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
The founder of the feast indeed, who pays you all of 15 shillings a week. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast on, and I hope he'd have a good appetite for it.
Oh, my dear, the children. Christmas Day.
Well, it should be Christmas Day, I'm sure, on which one drinks to his health. Such an odious, stingy, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Bob. Nobody knows it better than you, poor fellow.
My dear, Christmas Day.
I'll drink his health for your sake and the day's, not for his. Long life to him. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt.
And I say God bless him too, Mother and everyone.
Amen.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
They were not a handsome family. They were not well dressed. Their shoes were far from being waterproof. Their clothes were scanty. But they were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented with the time. When at last they faded, Scrooge had his eye upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the last.
Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
No, kind Spirit. Say that he will be spared.
What then? If he be like to die, he'd better do it, and decrease the surplus population. Come on, we have more to see.
Scrooge and the Spirit flew through the night and landed in a dry, gleaming room full of people making merry.
Why, Spirit, that's my nephew Fred and his wife.
He said that Christmas was a humbug, as I live, and he believed it too.
More shame on him, Fred.
Oh, he's a comical old fellow, that's the truth, and so unpleasant. However, his offenses carry their own punishment, and I have nothing to say against him.
I'm sure he's very rich, Fred. At least you always tell me so.
What of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. He doesn't do any good with it. He doesn't make himself comfortable with it. He hasn't the satisfaction of thinking that he's ever going to benefit us with it.
I have no patience for him.
Oh, I have. I'm sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. Who suffers by his ill whims? Well, himself. Always. Here, he takes it into his head to dislike us, and he won't come to dine with us. What's the consequence? Well, he doesn't lose much of a dinner.
Indeed, I think he loses a very good dinner.
Well, I'm very glad to hear it.
Do go on, Fred.
I was only going to say that the consequence of his taking a dislike to us and not making merry with us is, as I think, that he loses some unpleasant moments, or some pleasant moments, which could do him no harm. I mean to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not, for I pity him, and I think I shook him yesterday.
Come, my life upon this globe is very brief. It ends tonight.
Tonight? Are spirits' lives so short?
Tonight, at midnight. Hark, the time is drawing near.
Forgive me if I'm not justified in what I ask, but I see something strange. It's not belonging to yourself, protruding from your skirts. Is it a foot or a claw?
It might be a claw, for the flesh there is upon it. Look here.
From the foldings of its robe, it brought 2 children. Wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They knelt down at its feet and clung upon the outside of its garment.
Man, look here. Look down here.
They were a boy and a girl. Yellow, meager, ragged, scowling, and wolfish.
Spirit, are they yours?
They are man's, and they cling to me. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware them both and all their power. But most of all, beware this boy. For on his brow I see that written which is doom, unless the writing be erased.
Have they no refuge or resource?
Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
Scrooge looked about him for the jolly ghost, and saw it not. As the last bell ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him. The phantom slowly, gravely, silently approached. When it came near him, Scrooge bent down upon his knee, for in the very air through which the spirit moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery. It was shrouded in a deep black garment which concealed its head, its face, its form, and left nothing of it visible save one outstretched hand. But for this, it would have been difficult to detach the figure from the night and separate it from the darkness by which it was surrounded. His presence filled Scrooge with a mysterious and solemn dread. He knew no more, for the spirit neither spoke nor moved.
I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come.
The spirit answered not, but pointed downward with its hand.
You are about to show me the shadows of the things that have not happened, but will happen in the time before us. Is that so, Spirit?
The spirit inclined its head. That was the only answer Scrooge received. Although well used to ghostly company by this time, Scrooge feared the silent shape so much that his legs trembled beneath him, and he found that he could hardly stand when he prepared to follow it.
Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any specter I've seen. But as I know, your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to live to be another man from what I was, I'm prepared to bear you company, to do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me?
It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them.
Lead on. Lead on. The night is waning fast, and it's precious time to me, I know. Lead on, Spirit.
Scrooge followed in the shadow of its dress, which bore him up, he thought, and carried him along. They scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to spring up about them and encompass them of its own act. But there they were, in the heart of it, amongst the merchants who hurried up and down and clinked money in their pockets.
Where are you taking me now? Where? Here? On a common street? Spirit? What is there for me to learn here? Who are these men?
No, I don't know much about it either way. I only know he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
Why? What was the matter with him? I thought he'd never die.
God knows.
What has he done with the money?
I haven't heard. Left it to his company, perhaps. He hasn't left it to me, that's all I know.
Well, it's likely to be a very cheap funeral. For upon my life, I don't know of anybody to go to it. Suppose we make up a party and volunteer?
I don't mind going if lunch is provided, but I must be fed if I go.
Well, I never wear black gloves, and I never eat lunch. But I'll go if anybody else will. When I come to think of it, I'm not at all sure that I wasn't his most particular friend, for we used to stop and speak whenever we met. Would you look at the time? Bye-bye!
Spirit, help me. Who is this man who died? Is there no one to mourn the poor creature? No one to follow him to the grave?
Quiet and dark, beside him stood the phantom with its outstretched hand, and the busy street dissolved. And they entered an obscure part of town where Scrooge had never entered before, although he recognized it as a shop of ill repute, where iron, old rags, bottles, bones, and greasy offal were bought. Upon the floor within were piled up heaps of rusty keys, nails, chains, hinges, files, scales, weights, and refuse iron of all kinds. Scrooge and the phantom watched as a woman with a heavy bundle slunk into the shop. But she had scarcely entered when another woman, similarly laden, came in too, and she was closely followed by a man in faded black, who was no less startled by the sight of them.
Yous couldn't have met in a better place. Come into the parlor.
Every person has a right to take care of themselves. He always did.
That's true indeed, no man more so. If he wanted to keep his things after he was dead, why wasn't he good in his lifetime? If he had been, he'd have had somebody to look after him when he was struck with death, instead of lying gasping out his last breath alone by himself.
It's the truest word that was ever spoke. It's a judgment on him.
Open that bundle, old Joe, and let me know the value of it. We know pretty well that we were helping ourselves before we met here. I believe it's no sin. Open your bundle, Joe.
A pencil case, a pair of sleeve buttons, a brooch.
Nothing much of value. Mrs. Dilbert, you next.
I've got sheets, towels, a few shirts, and 2 old-fashioned silver teaspoons, a pair of sugar tongs, and a few boots.
Well, that'll fetch a fair sum. But look what I brought.
His bed curtains!
Bed curtains!
You don't mean to say you took them down, rings and all, with him lying there.
Yes, I do. Why not?
You were born to make your fortune, and you'll certainly do it.
I also got his blankets.
His blankets?
Well, he isn't likely to use them, I dare say.
They're still warm.
Oh, I hope he didn't die anything catching, eh?
Don't you be afraid of that. I am not fond of his company that I'd loiter about him for such things. Yeah, here's his best shirt, too. They'd have wasted it if it hadn't been for me.
What do you call wasting it?
Putting it on him to be buried in. To be sure, somebody was fool enough to do it, but I took it off again.
No, he frightened everyone away from him when he was alive, to profit us when he's dead.
Spirit, I see the case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now, but oh, merciful heaven, what is this?
The ghost conducted him through several streets familiar to his feet until they reached Bob Cratchit's house.
But Spirit, why have you brought me here again? But it's not the same.
Mother, please.
Oh, my son, my little son, Tiny Tim. I loved him so.
Mother, dear, you mustn't. It's almost time for Father to be home. Don't let him see you crying.
Yes, Martha.
He's late tonight.
He walks slower than he used to. And yet I've known him to walk very fast indeed with Tiny Tim on his shoulders.
So have I.
But he was light to carry. And his father loved him, so that it was no trouble. It was no trouble. Bob.
Good evening, my dear.
You're late, Bob.
Yes, I'm sorry, my dear. I went to the churchyard today. I wish you could have gone with me. It would have done your heart good to see how sweet and green a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised him. Yes, I promised Tiny Tim we'd walk there every Sunday.
Father, dear.
Bob.
I'm trying to understand it, my dear. My son, my little son, Tiny Tim. I'm sure we shall none of us forget poor Tiny Tim. Shall we? Never, Father.
No, never, Father.
Oh, that's cruel. That's cruel. Spirit, can't you give me one ray of hope that I may change all that Tiny Tim may live? And who is that man that died? Is there no one to mourn the poor creature? No one to follow him to the grave? Perhaps they'll give him a green grave at least, like poor Tiny Tim. Perhaps so.
The ghost of Christmas yet to come conveyed him to a churchyard. Here, then, the wretched man whose name Scrooge had now to learn lay underneath the ground. It was a worthy place, overrun by grass and weeds, the growth of vegetation's death, not life, choked up with too much burying, fat with repleted appetite, a worthy place for such a horrible man.
Before I draw near to that stone to which you point, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of the things that will be? Or are they the shadows of the things that may be only?
The ghost said nothing and pointed downward to the grave by which it stood.
Ebenezer Scrooge. Ebenezer Scrooge. Oh no. No, Spirit, no, hear me. I'm not the man I was. Why show me this if I'm past all hope? Tell me that I can change these dreadful shadows that you've shown me. By an altered life, I'll honor Christmas in my heart. I'll try to keep it all the year. I'll live in the past, and the present, and the future. And I'll not shut out the lessons that they teach. Tell me, Spirit, oh go on, tell me that I can sponge away the writing on that stone. Spirit, I beg you. Spirit, I beg you. Spirit, I promise. Spirit, I promise, I promise on my knees, what's this? What's this? It's my own grave. It's my home. I'm in my own bed. I'm in my own room. And the sun. And the sun is shining, it's clear, it's bright, there's no fog. What a beautiful day. Oh, glorious. And my bed curtains, they're not torn down. There rings and all, and they are here, and I am here, and the shadows of the things that would have been may be dispelled. They will be. I know they will. I don't know what to do. I'm so light as a feather. I was happy as an angel. I was merry as a schoolboy. I was giddy as a drunken man. I was merry. Oh, a Merry Christmas to everybody. And Happy New Year to all the world. Oh, hello there, hello. There's the saucepan that the gruel was in, and there's the door by which the ghost of Jacob Marley entered, and there's the corner where the ghost of Christmas Present sat, and there's a window where I saw the wandering spirits. It's all right, it's all true, it all happened. I don't know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been here among the spirits. I don't know anything. I'm quite a baby. Oh, never mind, I don't care. I'd rather be a baby. Hello. Look there, hello. Oh, yeah, you there. What's today? What's today, my fine fellow?
Today, it's Christmas Day.
It's Christmas Day? Well, I haven't missed it. The spirits must have done it all in one night. So they can do anything they like. Of course they can. Of course they can. Hello, my fine fellow. Do you know the poulterers in the next street but one at the corner?
I should hope I do.
Oh, an intelligent boy. A remarkable boy. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Not the little prize turkey, but the big one,
What? The one as big as me?
Delightful boy. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck.
It's hanging there now.
Why is it? Well, then go and buy it.
Be serious.
No, I am in earnest. Go and buy it and tell them to bring it here, that I may then give them the direction where to take it. And then come back with the man, and I'll give you a shilling, and come back with him in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown. And I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's house, and he shan't know who sends it. Oh, it's twice the size of Tiny Tim.
The hand in which he wrote the address was not a steady one, but write it he did, somehow, and went downstairs to open the street door, ready for the coming of the poulterer's man. As he stood there, waiting its arrival, the knocker caught his eye.
I shall love it as long as I live. I scarcely ever looked at it before, but what an honest expression it has on its face. It's a wonderful door knocker. Oh, and here's the turkey. Hello. Whoop. Oh, how are you? Merry Christmas. Oh,
to the world the Lord has come. Earth receive the King. Let every heart prepare Him room. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing.
He dressed himself all in his best, and at last got out into the streets. Scrooge regarded everyone with a delighted smile, and made to find the two women who yesterday came to his office requesting money for the poor.
Good morning. A Merry Christmas to you. How do you do? I hope you succeeded yesterday. It was very kind of you. Merry Christmas to you both.
Mr. Scrooge?
Yes, that is my name. I fear it may not be pleasant to you, but allow me to ask your pardon. Will you have the goodness to accept my donation?
Scrooge bent down to whisper in the woman's ear.
Lord bless me.
My dear Scrooge, are you serious?
If you please, not a farthing less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. And will you do me that favor?
My dear sir, I don't know what to say to such kindness.
Don't say anything, please. Just come and see me. Will you come and see me?
I will.
Well, thank you. I'm much obliged to you. I thank you 50 times. Bless you.
He walked about the streets and watched people hurrying to and fro, and patted children on the head, and questioned beggars, and looked down into kitchens of houses and up to the windows, and found that everything could yield him pleasure. He had never dreamed that any walk, that anything, could give him so much happiness. In the afternoon, he turned his steps towards his nephew's house. He passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up and knock. But he made a dash and did it.
Why, bless my soul, who's that?
It's I, your Uncle Scrooge. I've come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred?
Let him in.
Wonderful party. Wonderful games. Wonderful unanimity. Wonderful happiness. But he was early to the office the next morning. Oh, he was early there. If he could only be there first and catch Cratchit coming in late. That was the thing he had set his heart upon, and he did it. Yes, he did. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1/4 past. No Bob. He was full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. Scrooge sat with his door open that he might see Bob come in.
Hello? What do you mean by coming here at this time of day?
I'm very sorry, sir. I'm behind my time.
You are? Yes, I think you are. Step this way, if you please, sir.
It's only once a year, sir. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday.
Now, I'll tell you what, my friend. I am not going to stand this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, I am about to raise your salary. A Merry Christmas, Bob. Yes, a Merry Christmas. A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I've ever given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary, and I'll endeavor to assist your struggling family, and we will discuss your affairs this very afternoon. So, make up the fires and buy more coal.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city ever knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh, and he little heeded them, for he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for good at which some people did not have their fill of laughter in the outset. His own heart laughed, and it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of us and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.